Millionaire marries an obese woman as a bet and is surprised when, in a world where money talks louder than emotions and bets are made on just about anything, one man's arrogance led him down a path he never saw coming. Imagine this: a millionaire, known for his sharp suits, expensive cars, and an ego as big as his bank account, agrees to marry someone, not out of love, but because of a dare. Not just anyone though. This time, it's not the usual glamorous woman who catches his eye. It's someone society has often overlooked. A plus-sized woman whose confidence radiates despite the judgments around her. What starts as a reckless wager turns into something neither of them could have predicted. Meet Ethan Carter, a self-made millionaire with a reputation that precedes him. To those who know him, Ethan is the epitome of success. Ruthless in business, charming at parties, and always in control. But beneath the polished exterior lies a man obsessed with winning. No matter the stakes, his life takes an unexpected turn during a lavish party at his penthouse, when his best friend Marcus throws out a challenge that leaves everyone speechless. "Ethan," Marcus says with a smirk, holding up his glass of champagne, "I bet you wouldn't marry someone like her." He points across the room to Mia Thompson, a vibrant, confident woman who doesn't fit the mold of Ethan's typical dates. The room falls silent, all eyes turning to Ethan, waiting to see if he'll take the bait. For Ethan, walking away from a challenge isn't an option. He thrives on proving people wrong, even if it means stepping far outside his comfort zone. With a cocky grin, he accepts the bet without hesitation. $1 million seems like a small price to pay for yet another victory. But what Ethan doesn't realize is that this decision will change everything he thought he knew about relationships, respect, and himself. Meanwhile, Mia isn't your average woman. She's fiercely independent, unapologetically herself, and wise enough to see through facades. When she hears about the bet, she decides to play along. Not because she needs validation, but because she sees an opportunity to teach Ethan a lesson he won't soon forget. Their first meeting sets the tone for what's to come. Ethan shows up at a quiet cafe, expecting to charm Mia with his usual tactics. But Mia isn't impressed by flashy smiles or empty promises. From the moment they sit down, she makes it clear that she knows exactly why they're here, and she has no intention of being anyone's pawn. "Let's get one thing straight," Mia says, leaning forward with a calm but piercing gaze. "I'm not doing this for you or your games. If we're going to do this, I set the terms." Ethan, caught off guard by her directness, finds himself intrigued. For the first time in years, he's met someone who refuses to bow to his authority. The days pass. The tension between them grows thicker than either anticipated. Ethan tries every trick in the book to win Mia over. Lavish gifts, extravagant dinners, even attempts at humor. But nothing seems to work. Mia remains steadfast, treating their arrangement like the business deal it is. Yet beneath her composed exterior, there's a flicker of curiosity. Despite herself, she begins to wonder if there's more to Ethan than meets the eye. Could this arrogant millionaire actually learn humility? Or is he simply playing another game? The wedding itself feels less like a celebration and more like the signing of a contract. No white dresses, no grand vows, just two people standing before a judge, exchanging rings under the weight of ulterior motives. As they walk out of the courthouse, Ethan can't help but feel a strange mix of triumph and unease. He's won the bet, but at what cost? Meanwhile, Mia keeps her distance, determined to maintain her independence. While navigating this bizarre arrangement, neither of them realizes how much their lives are about to intertwine, or how deep the impact will be. Back at Ethan's luxurious penthouse, The reality of their situation begins to sink in. Mia moves in, bringing with her a simplicity that clashes with Ethan's opulent lifestyle. While he showers her with designer clothes and jewelry, she politely declines, choosing instead to wear what makes her comfortable. "You can buy me things," she tells him one evening, "but you can't buy my respect." Her words linger in the air, forcing Ethan to confront a truth he's long avoided. Money can't solve everything. And as the weeks go by, the dynamic between them shifts in ways neither expected. But just when it seems like Ethan might be softening, a shocking revelation threatens to tear them apart. One night, after a heated argument, Mia reveals a secret she's been carrying, one that challenges everything Ethan believes about himself and his actions. The room falls silent as Ethan processes her words, his carefully constructed facade crumbling before him. "Is this what you wanted?" Mia asks, her voice trembling with emotion. "To prove you could win, no matter who gets hurt?" Ethan is left speechless, grappling with guilt and regret as the weight of his choices crashes down on him. And so, the story reaches a pivotal moment. Will Ethan rise to the occasion, proving that he's capable of real change? Or will his past mistakes define him forever? As Mia watches him struggle, she faces her own dilemma. Should she give him a second chance, knowing the risks involved? Their journey is far from over, and the answers lie just beyond the horizon. But one thing is certain. For both Ethan and Mia, nothing will ever be the same again. What happens next will test their resolve, push their limits, and force them to confront the very essence of who they are. Stay tuned to find out whether love can truly conquer all, or if some wounds run too deep to heal. Ethan's frustration grew with each passing day. He had always prided himself on being able to read people, to anticipate their moves and counter them effortlessly. But Mia was different. She wasn't playing by any rulebook he recognized. For every lavish gesture he made, she countered with quiet defiance. Her refusal to be swayed by his wealth or charm gnawed at him in ways he couldn't explain. At first, it had been about winning the bet, proving that no one could resist him for long. But now it felt personal. Every time she looked at him with those steady eyes, Ethan felt like she was seeing through him, past the expensive suits and polished smile, into the emptiness beneath. Mia, on the other hand, knew exactly what she was doing. She hadn't agreed to this marriage because she wanted Ethan's money or approval. In fact, when Marcus first proposed the idea of the bet to her as a way to expose Ethan's arrogance, she saw an opportunity, not just to teach him a lesson, but to reclaim some of the dignity he represented. To Mia, Ethan wasn't just a man who thought he could buy anything. He symbolized a world that judged people based on appearances, that dismissed individuals like her without a second thought. And while she didn't expect to change him completely, she was determined to make him confront the harm his actions caused. Their interactions became charged with tension. During one particularly heated argument, Ethan snapped. "Why do you keep fighting me?" he demanded, pacing the room like a caged animal. "I've given you everything, luxury, security, and yet you act like I've done nothing." Mia stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then slowly she spoke. "You think giving me things makes up for the way you see me. You don't even know me, Ethan. All you see is someone who doesn't fit your idea of perfection." Her words hung in the air between them, sharp and unyielding. For a moment, Ethan didn't know how to respond. It was the first time anyone had called him out so directly, and it shook him. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan began to notice small details about Mia that he hadn't before. The way her laughter lit up a room, the kindness she showed strangers, the quiet strength she carried with her everywhere. These glimpses of her humanity started to chip away at the walls he'd built around himself. He found himself wanting to understand her more. Not just as a challenge, but as a person. Still, his pride held him back, admitting that he might have been wrong, that he might need to change, was something Ethan wasn't ready to face. Meanwhile, Mia had her own struggles. Living under the same roof as Ethan forced her to confront emotions she hadn't anticipated. There were moments when his vulnerability cracked through his carefully constructed facade, revealing a side of him she hadn't expected. She caught herself wondering if there was more to him than the arrogant millionaire everyone described. But then she remembered why she was here: to hold him accountable for the pain he caused, not only to her, but to countless others. The weight of that responsibility weighed heavily on her, especially late at night when the silence of the penthouse pressed down on her. The turning point came during a charity gala Ethan insisted they attend together. Dressed in a simple yet elegant gown, Mia walked into the event, holding her head high despite the whispers and stares from other guests. Ethan watched her closely, marveling at how gracefully she navigated the crowd. When a rude comment slipped from a guest's lips, something about how unexpected their pairing was, Mia simply smiled and said, "Sometimes unexpected things turn out to be the most meaningful." Ethan froze, struck by her poise and wisdom. That night, as they drove home in silence, he realized he was falling for her, not because of what she represented, but because of who she truly was. But just as Ethan began to let his guard down, a shocking revelation threatened to tear them apart. A business associate approached Ethan with damning evidence. Mia had known all along who he was and what he stood for. Worse, she had deliberately agreed to the marriage as part of a larger plan orchestrated by Marcus to humiliate him publicly. The news hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. Betrayal burned in his chest as he confronted Mia later that evening. "Was this all just a game to you?" he asked, his voice trembling with anger. "Were you using me too?" Mia hesitated, torn between defending herself and protecting the fragile bond they had begun to build. Finally, she admitted the truth. Not just about Marcus's involvement, but also about her own motivations. "Yes, I agreed to the bet to prove a point," she said, meeting his gaze squarely. "But I never planned to hurt you, Ethan. I wanted you to see the consequences of your actions, to realize that people aren't pawns in your games. Somewhere along the way, though, I started to care about you, and that scares me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air crackled with unresolved tension as Ethan processed her words. Part of him wanted to walk away, to protect himself from further pain. But another part, a deeper, more vulnerable part, knew that walking away would mean losing something far greater than his pride. As the clock ticked closer to the 6-month mark, both Ethan and Mia faced a choice: to let the past define them, or to take a leap of faith towards something neither of them had anticipated. Unbeknownst to them, Marcus had plans of his own. Determined to ensure the bet ended in chaos, he leaked photos of Ethan and Mia to the press, framing their marriage as a publicity stunt gone wrong. Overnight, their private lives became public spectacle, and the pressure mounted. Ethan and Mia found themselves at odds again, unsure whether their connection was strong enough to withstand the storm brewing around them. With accusations flying and secrets unraveling, the stakes reached an all-time high. Would they emerge stronger together, or would the forces pulling them apart prove too powerful to overcome? As the final days of their agreement loomed, Ethan and Mia stood on opposite sides of the living room, the city lights casting shadows across their faces. Neither spoke, but the question hung heavy between them. What happens now? As the months passed, Ethan and Mia found themselves in a delicate dance of vulnerability and trust. The tension between them had shifted from hostility to something deeper, though neither was ready to admit it fully. Ethan, once so confident in his ability to control every situation, now felt like he was walking on thin ice. Every word, every action carried weight, and for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be truly accountable, not just for his actions, but for the lives they affected. Meanwhile, Mia wrestled with her own emotions. She had entered this arrangement with a clear purpose: to expose Ethan's arrogance and make him face the consequences of his behavior. But somewhere along the way, she began to see glimpses of a man who was more than his wealth and ego, a man capable of change. The turning point came one evening when Ethan returned home after yet another long day of meetings. He had been working tirelessly to repair some of the damage he'd caused over the years, meeting with people he'd wronged, and offering not just financial compensation, but genuine apologies. It wasn't easy. Many dismissed him outright, calling him insincere or too late, but Ethan persisted, driven by a need to prove himself, not just to Mia, but to himself. When he walked into the penthouse that night, he found Mia sitting on the couch, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Ethan," she said softly as he approached, "I've been thinking about everything you've done lately." Her tone was calm, but there was an undercurrent of emotion that caught him off guard. "You didn't have to do any of it. You could have walked away when the 6 months ended, but you stayed. Why?" Ethan hesitated, unsure how to put his feelings into words. Finally, he sat down beside her, his gaze steady. "Because I realized I don't want to be the person I used to be," he admitted. "You showed me that my actions have consequences, Mia, and while I can't undo the past, I can try to be better, for you, for myself, and for anyone else I might hurt if I don't change." Mia studied him carefully, searching for any sign of dishonesty. What she saw instead was sincerity, a raw honesty that made her heart ache. For months she had clung to her anger, using it as armor against the possibility of being hurt again. But now, faced with the reality of Ethan's transformation, she felt that armor beginning to crack. "I'm scared," she confessed quietly, surprising even herself. "I'm scared because I know forgiving you doesn't erase the pain you caused. But I'm also scared of letting go of the anger. It's all I've had to protect me." Ethan reached out hesitantly, placing a hand over hers. "You don't have to forgive me right away, or ever, if that's what you decide. But I want you to know that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn your trust, Mia. Not because of the bet, not because of anything material, but because you deserve someone who respects and values you." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken emotions. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Instead, it felt like a bridge, a fragile connection slowly growing stronger. Mia finally nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's see where this goes." With those two simple words, the wall between them began to crumble. Over the following weeks, their relationship evolved in ways neither had anticipated. They talked openly about their fears, their dreams, and the wounds they carried. Ethan continued his efforts to make amends, not just for Mia's sake, but because he genuinely wanted to be a better person. And Mia, in turn, allowed herself to hope, to believe that maybe love could grow, even in the most unlikely places. When the 6-month mark arrived, neither of them mentioned the end of their agreement. Instead, they focused on building something real, something rooted in mutual respect and understanding. One evening, as they stood together on the balcony overlooking the city, Ethan turned to Mia with a determined look in his eyes. I know we never planned for this to be permanent, he said, his voice trembling slightly. But I don't want our story to end here. I want to keep going, with you, as equals. If you'll have me. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she looked at him, seeing not the arrogant millionaire she'd met months ago, but a man who had fought hard to become someone worthy of her love. Yes, she replied without hesitation, but only if you promise to always listen, to always care, and to never stop growing. Ethan smiled, pulling her into his arms. I promise. Their journey forward wasn't without challenges. Old habits sometimes resurfaced, and there were moments when doubt crept in. But through it all, they leaned on each other, choosing to fight for their relationship rather than against it. Together, they proved that love isn't about perfection. It's about growth, forgiveness, and the courage to start anew. In the end, what started as a reckless bet became a testament to the power of redemption and second chances. Ethan learned that true success isn't measured in dollars, but in the connections we nurture and the lives we touch. And Mia discovered that sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories. As they stood side by side, ready to face whatever the future held, they knew one thing for certain: their love was worth fighting for.